Welcome back, everybody, to another impactful episode of the PSTA podcast. I am so excited to have our favorite weekly guest, Patrick Kelly, back with us with a legislative update. Patrick, how you doing?
Doing all right, Craig. Just excited for another week down and some pretty big news at the State House that impacts teachers this week.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into it. What can you share with us as we completed week 7? Am I correct?
That's it. This is week 7, and it is a big week at the State House because amongst all the education committee hearings, and there were several in both the House and the Senate, there's also just a big week on the annual legislative calendar because this is the week that the House Ways and Means Committee released and voted on and approved their version of the fiscal year 2024 state budget, which is really the starting place for the budget process in the General Assembly. The governor last month released his executive budget, and that had some, exciting things for educators in it. But the governor can ultimately only make proposals. It is the legislature's power to pass the budget, and that starts in the Ways and Means Committee. So this week, we got the first look at what the legislature is going to be working from for the next 2 months as they seek to finalize a state budget.
Yeah, it's important to know and realize that this process that we are starting, that Patrick referenced, is one that you can be fully engaged in. And I got your update, Patrick, and I know we have 3 big issues where teachers can get involved. One dealing with Read to Succeed, which if you've been listening to our podcast, you've heard us reference the Read to Succeed legislation, also lottery enhancements and parental leave. Can you kind of share a little bit about each of those 3?
Yeah, so the first 2 are on the floor of the Senate. There are actually, the Senate Education Committee was incredibly busy this week. They had a hearing on Wednesday morning, and at this point, they've got almost 10 different pieces of education-related legislation on the Senate calendar, and they've actually already passed 2 education-related bills in the first 7 weeks. So the Senate is moving pretty rapidly on education bills. And 2 of the most important from PSTA's perspective that are currently residing on the calendar are, the first is S418, a bill that would eliminate the Read to Succeed courses that teachers have had to take for recertification for almost the last decade. That's been on the calendar for over a week now. It came up for debate on Thursday, but it was the debate was paused because a senator contested to debate on the bill, and that's just kind of the internal dynamics of the Senate, that an individual senator can ask for delay in discussion. I'm anticipating that will come back up on Tuesday, and that senator will no longer contest. So this is a really important moment for educators to reach out to their member of the Senate to ask them to allow this bill to move forward with debate on the floor, and then B, when they finally get to the vote, to vote in favor of the bill to get rid of this burdensome requirement on teacher recertification. The other big bill in the Senate is on the calendar is S125, which is a bill that would extend lottery enhancement scholarships to education majors on par with what math and science majors have been receiving for quite some time. Basically, it would just mean more scholarship dollars for education majors that are lottery scholarship eligible. PSTA believes that's important to both recruit more of our talented high school students into education, but also to help retain teachers in the long run by diminishing their student debt burden. The Senate has passed this bill twice in the last 4 years. They passed it in 2020. They passed it again last year. This year, Senator Hembry, Senator Turner, and Senator Young reintroduced this bill, made it through the Education Committee with minimal debate. Should be able to get through the Senate again, since every member of the Senate this year voted in favor of the bill last year. But this is so important that we don't want to leave it to chance, and we want it to get through the Senate as quickly as possible to get it over to the House to increase the likelihood that this bill gets to the governor's desk this year, because we want him to sign it this year so that students can start benefiting from this sooner. There's always a possibility the House, if they get the bill too late this year, would delay debate until 2024, which could push back by a year the time where students can start getting this money. We need this bill to get to the governor as quickly as possible so that students can start benefiting as quickly as possible so we can enhance our educator recruitment efforts in this state.
Thank you, Patrick. And this is what I need every listener and member of PSTA to do right now. In your email inbox on February 24th, Patrick sent an email outlining in summary the three pieces of legislation that he just reviewed for you. And under each summary, he has a way for you to advocate and contact your senator and your representative. So take a moment, go back to your email thread February 24th and look for that legislative update to get actively involved, because these are three things that we know will positively impact our educators in the classroom, impact you in the classroom. In a few
And
weeks.
Craig, I forgot to mention the third one. So let me just quickly mention the third one. The third one is paid parental leave. So this is something that PSTA was the first education association in South Carolina to advocate for. We started this several years ago in our legislative agenda. Last year, the state started providing paid parental leave for the first time to state employees for the birth, adoption, or fostering of a child, basically for the expansion of your family. But teachers, educators were not included in that list. So this year, there is now a bill in the House, H3908, which was introduced by Representative Collins, but has the sponsorship and support of Speaker Smith, of Chair Lady Erickson, of Chairman Bannister, a whole host of leaders in the House that would extend paid parental leave to teachers. And this week, in the Senate, Senator Massey, the Senate Majority Leader, as well as Senator Young, introduced S552, which would also extend paid parental leave to teachers. This is exciting to see that the leadership of both chambers is on board in support of this concept, but support doesn't translate to law. Legislative action does. And so we need one of the chambers, the House or the Senate, to get their version of this paid parental leave bill into a committee hearing so this concept can start moving through the legislative process. The governor, there's an action alert in the land that will allow people to do that. And on Sunday morning, there'll be another quick reminder, a 1-minute advocacy opportunity with the links for all three of these issues: Read to Succeed certification, lottery scholarships, and paid parental leave. Click the links. In under 60 seconds, you can reach out to your senator and your representative to let them know that you need them to act on these three issues.
I'm currently in the upstate, Patrick, and we know Monday afternoon or Monday evening, we have our first listening session from the Recruitment and Retention Task Force. So you want to share a little bit about that before we wrap up today?
Yeah, so the Teacher Recruitment and Retention Task Force that was created by the General Assembly as part of this year's budget has been holding some meetings and subcommittee meetings already, but the proviso in the budget that created the task force also requires it to hold public hearings that are accessible to a wide group of stakeholders: teachers, administrators, parents, community members, to provide feedback to the task force on the factors they believe are necessary to enhance recruitment and retention efforts in this state. This is not to make the task force informed of the fact that there is a teacher shortage. They've already heard that from multiple national organizations. It is an established fact. That's why the teacher task force was created by the General Assembly. So people don't need to show up to testify to convince the task force that there's a shortage. They need to come and share their ideas and perspectives on how the state can reverse that shortage. The listening session on Monday night is from 6 to 8 o'clock at the M.T. Anderson Center in Greenville. That is open to anyone in the public, first come, first served in terms of signing up to testify. If you're coming to speak, I would be ready to provide your feedback in 4 minutes or less. You could end up with more time if there aren't a lot of people there, but I'm anticipating a large enough crowd that there'll be a time cap on people speaking. And bring your feedback in a written form just in case you don't have time to talk. You can leave your written feedback to the task force to consider as well. If you can't make it to Greenville on Monday, then there are two other opportunities. On March 13th, there'll be a listening session from 4:30 to 6:30 at Francis Marion University in Florence. And on March 20th, there will be a listening session from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Black Building on the State House grounds in Columbia. Obviously it'd be great if there were even more listening sessions across the state in areas like Charleston or Rock Hill. But this is just kind of the nature of the beast in terms of trying to get a task force that includes people from across the state, from coast to the mountains, to different places, including the fact some of these members are legislators that are in Columbia Tuesday through Thursday for legislating anyway. So while more feedback would obviously be lovely, I'm excited that there are these three opportunities, and I hope that PSTA members will be engaged and active because as the foremost experts on what works in our state schools, our task force needs to hear from that expertise as they are crafting policy recommendations for the General Assembly on how to enhance recruitment and retention in South Carolina.
Well, thanks, Patrick, for that update. I think we have provided a great deal of information for our teachers to be involved this coming week, whether it be in person at the listening sessions or by emailing their elected officials. So, Patrick, as again, you're our favorite weekly guest. I know you feel the love out there, but we just appreciate all that you do and the hard work that you do for educators in South Carolina. And anything else you want to share before we sign off?
No, just appreciate it. And in terms of the state budget, PSTA members keep checking your email because it is now a 2-week freeze. The way the House works is the Ways and Means Committee adopts their budget, and then they get a week to print the budget, and then they get a week to set it on the desk of every member of the House so they can all 124 of them can review it. But come March 13th, that is the first day of the state budget debate in the House. So over the course of the next 2 weeks, PSTA will be providing members more details on what does this budget look like as proposed for things like educator salaries, money for school safety enhancements, teacher supply checks. We're going to make sure that members have all the details necessary so that their representative can hear from them prior to March 13th on what they support in the budget, as well as what else they might like to see in there as the House digs in on the budget during that week of the 13th.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you for listening. Don't forget to share, download, follow the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. This has been another impactful episode of the PSTA podcast. We'll see you next time. Take care.